Do you know why mosquitoes never bite vampires? Professional courtesy. Hey, shh! Welcome back to Not Another Needless Sequel Season 2!
Woo, woo, woo! Season 2!
We are back now that the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes have concluded. Thank you for all of you who stood up for getting those souls behind our favorite media some well-deserved protections. If you're not familiar with what we do here, we talk movies and propose unnecessary prequels, sequels, reboots, and remakes. My name is Kane, and returning guest from Season 1 due to an outpouring of support from her fans, we have my wife.
Hey! Your
fans will turn on you.
Yeah, well, I wasn't allowed to say no cool lines.
I know we're a little late after the strikes, but I'm bad at podcasting, and it took me a while to get back to this and get everything going.
We've been traveling.
That too.
It's Morbin time today, boys.
It is Morbin time. So, this movie, to begin, I feel like I want to say there's not a lot of...
Say what movie.
They know. In Morbin time, there's only so many movies. If you're listening to this, you know. Besides, you can read the title. And I'm a bad podcaster. I just explained it.
I'm sorry.
This movie, I feel that, and it could just be us getting back into the swing of things, but I think this is going to be a bit quick of an episode.
It's a bad movie. We'll just...
we're not at the rating yet.
I didn't say the rating.
What's
I
the
just
story?
Said it's a bad movie. The Joker himself is a vampire to save himself from a blood disease, but he just gets a bloodthirst.
Mm-hmm. And how?
That's pretty much it. The Joker's a vampire.
Yes, so if you know anything about the character, he is a Spider-Man villain. His origins in the comic are pretty close, I think, to what they kind of did in this movie. You know, there's exceptions. There's people that are going to nitpick the very fine details. But he's a doctor with a rare blood disorder that is trying to cure it, which leads him to becoming a sort of vampire. So the movie opens up with him on a jungle expedition. It seems he hired a crew to bring him to this cave full of vampire bats. And I honestly immediately was like, well, why doesn't he just buy them? Why is he going to get these? And what was that trap supposed to do?
Listen, I have two comments about that. Number one, he hops off the helicopter like he has no disease and then automatically brings out his walking sticks, already dressed like a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, I also made a comment that it doesn't look like the trap did anything to stop the bat. They just flew through the... gateway and surrounded him. How would the bats already be drawn to him if he wasn't already a vampire?
Well, he had cut his hand there and put blood.
Oh.
But regardless, I didn't know what that trap was doing. And I don't know, for me, just when he gets off the plane, he starts making all these smug, quirky remarks. I already didn't like him. I'm like, why are you being this kind of guy?
Yeah.
I don't know what Morbius should look like in a movie, but I don't like his attitude. The guy's like, what are you using for bait? And he goes, you volunteering? And he's looking all sick and crippled. And the guy's like, you need a doctor? And he's like, I am a doctor. Shut up.
And here's the thing. I looked it up in the encyclopedia that you have, the Marvel encyclopedia. It says he's a biochemist.
Yeah.
I'm not discounting the fact that he's a doctor, but I think that that's a poor line to claim that you're a doctor as in you're a physician and you know what you're, capable of.
Yeah.
As where he's a doctor of biochemistry. Completely different things.
Either way, you hired this guy and you're just immediately being a dick about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, after that, we get a flashback to Michael Morbius as a kid. And he still has his disorder, obviously. He's in some kind of, orphanage or treatment center.
They have to get blood transfusions twice a day or something.
Yeah. And he meets another kid, Lucian, and they just call him Milo. And he makes a comment about how, basically, everybody just comes and goes through there.
Because they die.
Yeah. And so he calls them all Milo, which... Don't do that.
I just feel like the entire flashback from him saving Lucian/Milo from his heart stopping with a battery and all that was to just be like, he's really smart. And then we moved on.
Well, they were trying to, establish their friendship, but my thing is you didn't call him his name, and you continue to do that forever.
But the other thing is based on that scene, they only knew each other for 2 days before Morbius was sent off.
You're right. He was quickly sent off. They did make that point of being
and then he's like, I'll save you, Milo.
Yeah, why?
I'll save us both.
You just met that kid.
Yeah, it just...
But you do see also that they are ridiculed and bullied for their disease, which it's that thing they do in movies where it's people go out of their way to be horrible.
Yeah.
I know kids are horrible, don't get me wrong. I'm not sure kids are pointing up at windows of sick kids and being like, cripple.
Yeah, I
Like,
don't think
it's
so.
too far. So they're bullying him for no reason, and they are establishing that their life is horrible, and so they go with that little line of like, we're like the Spartans, the few against the many, and I didn't like that either. I was like, stop. It's cheesy. After that flashback of just kind of establishing their relationship, we see him as an adult again. Michael Morbius, and he's, you know, an established doctor. He's winning some Nobel Prize, and they kind of go back to again showing he's an asshole. I didn't even quite get it. I feel like it wasn't fleshed out enough, but it was something like he offended the Swedish people by not getting up, or
he didn't accept the award.
regardless, I was like, what's the point of this scene? Why would he grow up to be such a fucking dick to everyone around him?
But why would he grow up, be on stage, knowing he could win the Nobel Prize, sit up there for the award ceremony, travel for all of it, and then be like, nah, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, you don't even have to go.
Yeah.
You can just not show up.
I know.
But they're just showing off, you know, what he's accomplished, and you see he has a whole lab. It turns out it's being funded by Milo, who was his friend from back in the day. And Milo showed up and kind of made some comments that you can see he was rich. His family seems to be rich. I think somebody calls him like something royalty related. So I don't know.
It's because he was Prince Philip in The Crown, so he's royalty.
Well, I think it's something in this as well.
I wanted to say the king, but that was rude to Queen Elizabeth, so.
When he...
We'll just go with a Crown Morbius crossover?
Definitely not.
Okay, cool. No doubt.
Don't upset Matt Smith. I think he likes to forget this movie.
Does he? Does he like to remember being in House of Dragon?
Don't know. That's still running strong. So, there's another doctor that works in his lab, Martine.
Yes.
And that's his love interest. And Martine is mad at him about the bats that he went and brought back from that expedition he has in the giant tube. And this is such a small scene, but it bothered me because she enters the code to see the bats, like turn on the light. And he says something like, well, how'd you know the code? And she's like, it's the first 6 digits of pi backwards. That's not a smart password. They did that, I think, to be like, look how smart he is. He knows the first 6 digits of pi backwards. Who cares? Anybody can remember 6 numbers. They tried to show him like he's just such a fucking brain.
It's 3.14159.
She was thinking about that the whole time as I'm sitting here saying anybody knows it.
That's
I
7.
don't know it, but the point is, that's no different than me just having a random 6-digit number.
I could be wrong, but I think it's 3.141.
I think that lines like that just show things that I was complaining about, is that I just think the movie's dialogue is awkward and clunky.
You would also think like somebody who's a doctor would come up with a unique password instead of something that could be guessed.
And what does pi have to do with being a biochemist?
What's pi have to do with being a doctor?
If anybody knows that, just tell me, but it could have something to do with it. Anyway.
Math. I don't know if biochemists use math. I'm not a biochemist, so...
Well, through the vampire bats, he decides that he can come up with a cure, but he goes to Milo, who funds all of his research, and says to him, you know, I have this plan, but it's illegal. I have to do it in international waters. It's dangerous. It might not work. All this bullshit. And, of course, Milo's just like, whatever. Money to burn. Go ahead. Get out there. So he gets on a ship. He hires a crew, and he goes out there with Martine, and they are injecting him with something.
The bat blood.
Something that they made that has to do with the bats.
It's the bat DNA or whatever that made the rat survive.
Yeah, they did show where they did an experiment on a rat real quick earlier. But he goes out there, and then there's a scene that I made a comment about where the crew members come in there and they see Martine. They're like,
I made a comment about that too.
They call her a nurse, and then they're just rude and shitty, and she's fucking telling them off. And I'm just like, why did you hire this crew? You just hired the first fucking... Did you pull up to a goddamn pirate bay?
I think they were saying that it couldn't be, like, legal. Like, the crew couldn't be, like, just stand-up people.
You can hire a private military. You can straight up hire them and they will do anything.
I also said it was... Making fun of a woman for being a doctor is just so ridiculous. I mean, I don't doubt that it still happens.
But, you know, we've been there, done that in the movies. Can you just have them respect her? But... They were trying to make you hate these people already because...
They all die.
Michael Morbius...
It's Morbin time.
...transforms into a vampire and he kills them all. But I don't feel good about him killing them all. They were assholes, but should they have died? I don't know. that seems a bit far.
It's Morbin time.
He brutally murders the entire crew, and then we're supposed to root for him? No. Which, yeah, he gets off the boat. He jumps off the boat and leaves Martine and all them on the boat to be found, and seemingly swims back to New York from international waters. And he, he feels bad about it, which is part of his normal, origin. He doesn't want to be this horrible vampire. He just is. And he's like, I can never do that again. I have to figure this out. And he tries, drinking the fucking gross blue blood that his company makes that's not real. That's only lasting so long, and it's getting worse and worse. But he doesn't want to kill people, which I kept saying, I know it's gross, but okay, you have a bunch of bags of real blood. Just drink that.
Yeah, he had a bunch of real blood on supply, but he created the artificial blood to keep him and
Milo
alive. Because I was sitting here thinking about that. I was like, how are they getting all these blood transfusions? There's always blood shortages, but it's because he invented artificial blood.
Yeah.
So...
But it still seemed like he had some. I feel like he could have used that strategically, but he was just like, that's it. I got 3 days, and I'm going to be a murderous psycho.
And then all of the bats, come down on him at that, they, surround him out of the tube and...
Yeah.
All of that. He's a brother of the bats. I just wanted to say that he's... I'm one of the bats. The bats are with me instead of I'm one with the force. The force is with me.
Well, so after he has that first transformation where he kills everybody, there's cops that come along, played by Gibson, and Al Madrigal. I kind of like Al Madrigal because he's funny. Mm-hmm. I think Tyrese Gibson tried too hard to do the serious bad boy cop, which is hard to see compared to his most famous role probably in Fast and Furious, where he's just kind of a goof, which I understand not wanting to do that same character. He starts off in
Too Fast, Too Furious is his first appearance in that.
Yes.
Bring that out.
But in universe, he existed before that. Anyway.
I wanted to create for my sequel, which I didn't do, a Fast and Furious Morbius crossover.
Well, that's why you're going to lose.
I didn't.
You had a perfect idea and you wasted it.
Too Fast, Too Morbius.
So the cops find Martine and everybody, and they bring Martine in, and I think it's pretty fucked up. They casually just throw several pictures of dead bodies in front of her, and they're like, you know how it is.
They're like,
because you're a doctor.
He's a dead body, but you're a doctor, so you won't mind. I wrote that down. Don't think I didn't. I was like...
That's not the case, cops, and you should be a little nicer. She's clearly the victim. I mean... I don't know. She was hurt.
Also, if they're biochemists and not physicians, they probably wouldn't be used to seeing. Maybe they changed the plot in this movie compared to the encyclopedia, and they are actual doctors and not biochemists.
I don't know. They call him Dr. Michael Morbius.
Yeah, but you would still call a PhD doctor.
I don't think that they looked at the encyclopedia and were like, what exactly was he in the comics so we can make it match? So the cops are trying to find out who did this, and seemingly, I guess, for some reason they have jurisdiction over this international waters incident. It's not...
Even though they shouldn't?
I mean, granted, it does list them as agents in the credits, so maybe they mention they're FBI. I honestly can't say that I didn't miss it or something. Either way, they're there. They finally go talk to Michael Morbius as he's trying to leave his building, and they arrest him. They have a little fight with him, but eventually they surround him, which when they surround him, I'm like, okay, but just do the same thing you already did.
I know.
If you're going to run, just run. What are you doing? Anyway, they get him into police custody. They're going to question him. I thought it was kind of funny that the guy sat down and had that little holy water, and he was like, triple blessed. And I was like, what is that?
Also, between him getting arrested and all of that, Milo found out that he, that Morbius has a cure, and you don't see it at the time, but he clearly steals the cure and injects himself with it. So he's also a vampire.
Yes, and he comes to visit Morbius in prison, and he leaves his cane there, which gives away the fact that he can walk to Morbius. He gives Morbius blood, and as he's walking out, he has a flask himself, presumably with blood in it. And the whole time, I'm just like, why did the cops let this man through security with all this shit? Blood, flasks, canes.
He's rich. They just let him through. But that led Morbius to escaping prison, which could have been so cool, but the CGI is terrible.
Well, so I actually thought, I wrote down, I think the echolocation scenes look cool. When he's looking out at the city and everything has like an aura to it. I thought that was some of the coolest stuff from the movies. Like, I thought that was a good compliment for the movies, that they did a really good job with that, showing powers that aren't very cinematic to see. Like, when you look at certain powers, they don't look like anything. Like, they just suck.
Yeah.
They actually make like a pretty funny commentary on it in Deadpool 2 with Domino, because, you know, her power is like lucky. Yeah. And he's shit-talking her. He's like, that's not a real superpower. Like, how can that even look cool? And it's the scene where she's running, like, down the highway with Cable driving that big truck, and stuff's, like, flying over her, just barely missing her. She's, like...
It's, like, killing everyone else.
Yeah. And, like... So it's hard to do certain things like that, and I think they did a good job with that. But speaking of the CGI, I do have, like, my normal trivia here, but most of it I was just saving to the end. The one thing I want to say right now is Jared Leto actually opted to avoid prosthetic makeup. He said, initially we were going to use prosthetics, but I really fought for CGI. Obviously, it's the future, and it was exciting to work with these incredible people that are on the cutting edge of technology. I just thought it would give us a lot more freedom.
Let's listen. He didn't want to sit in the makeup chair.
Right. First of all, I said that, yeah. I was like, you didn't want to sit in the makeup chair for 9 hours before a 9-hour shoot. Like, that's just the way it is, and I get that. But also, I think prosthetics would look cooler. Like, I think something fell flat with the CGI. I don't know.
Yeah. It wasn't even him, like, becoming a vampire. I didn't think Milo's vampire face looked that bad or anything like that. It was, like, the slow motion fighting, the flying. It just, like, couldn't keep up, and it looked cheaply made. Like...
Yeah, and I think the slow motion thing has got to die out. Like, you know, Matrix did it, and then everybody for the rest of our lives did it in every movie.
Nobody will ever do it like the Matrix did.
I think sometimes it looks cool, but I think people overuse it, and I think this movie did that. There's way too many spots where they just go into slow motion. I'm just like, just leave it. Let's see this shit.
Yeah, he fought for it because he didn't want to sit in the makeup chair. Let's just throw that out.
Absolutely. Also, when he breaks out, the next time we see Milo's at like a newspaper stand buying a Daily Bugle, which... Don't even get me started on what fucking universe does this movie take place in, because that Daily Bugle shit on there was Tobey Maguire's, like, Daily Bugle logo.
Yeah.
So, should be that one, but it's not, because also when he's looking at the paper, it mentions Rhino, Black Cat, Chameleon, and we know from Spider-Man No Way Home that Tobey Maguire never fought another villain after Spider-Man 3. Because he's just basically like, oh yeah, the craziest thing I ever fought is a black goo alien. And I'm just like, okay, what about the last 15 years? Did another supervillain never... You know what, let me cut myself off and not get started on that. But we also
know that Rhino is from the Amazing Spider-Man, which is Andrew Garfield's universe.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too, is they didn't establish...
He fights him at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 1.
They never established, like, a Rhino in that first one, or the first set of movies, but they did in the second few, and I don't know, it just annoyed me. But also, the guy that sells him the paper has Michael Morbius' face on the front page saying whatever, he killed people. And the guy looks at the paper as he's handing it to him and is like, always knew that guy was a freak. You never heard of this man.
Yeah.
Don't lie. Yeah, you have no idea who this is. Any random dude on the street just knows who Dr. Michael Morbius is.
Nobel Prize denier.
I don't know who won the Nobel Prize. If you ask me a single man that won the Nobel Prize, man or woman, excuse me, I have no idea.
Milo became super evil super quickly. He started murdering.
He goes and finds Martine, who, just like any old good character in New York City, is in their apartment with the windows wide open, just for anyone to look at you.
There's no point for her to be in this movie.
I do agree. She seems to only exist as the damsel in distress and love interest. She doesn't have anything else going on. Now, granted, they set up what her future kind of is in the comics, but, I mean, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So, Milo does take Martine, and...
Milo kills the doctor that took care of him their whole lives, and Morbius goes to that doctor, and then Morbius hears through his locomotor power, whatever it is... Echolocation, that Milo is making Martine call out for him. He gets there, Martine was, like, dead, and she says, drink my blood. It's for the greater good. Don't let it go to waste. So he drinks her blood. You presume she's dead, and then they go to the final fight where, oh no, Morbius had a cure that would kill the vampires. He made two, one for himself, one for Milo. Kills Milo and is like, I'm not going to use it on myself. I'm also not going to go back and check for Martine.
Yeah, he does just fly away.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the movie.
With all of the ending makes zero sense, and then all of a sudden Martine's eyes open, and you're like, ooh, she's a vampire. We didn't see that coming.
I didn't even think it showed her.
It showed her eyes open.
I believe you, I'm just saying.
It's just like, Makes zero sense. And then what makes it even worse is the after credit scene. Apologize if I'm going too fast.
You're not. I honestly skipped a lot to get to their final fight, but
Yeah.
they show in the end credit scenes, two of them, they kind of go together. You first see a split in the sky that is reminiscent of Doctor Strange's spell in Spider-Man No Way Home. And so it has something to do with that, but it causes Adrian Toomes, or the Vulture, to appear in a prison cell in this universe. They let him out because he obviously is just a guy in their universe that just is in a cell. Which, I don't know, man. I know he came from another universe, but this is a universe where they have now seen vampires. And apparently Venom, I guess, because there's that scene where he is breaking that dude's fingers and the guy's like, "Who are you, man?" He just goes, "I am Venom." And then, like, he moves on. Yeah. Which I think is also a dumb scene because Venom said that in one scene in his movie and then he ate the guy. Nobody heard that. Nobody knows.
But then, remember when he was at the bar drinking and then they, like, warp away? I forget which movie that was in, though.
That's also Spider-Man No Way Home because they set it up to make you think Venom was going to be in that movie. And then the after credit scene is that he appeared in the universe and went to a bar and he's been there drinking, talking to the bartender. The bartender, I don't recall his name, but he's the actor who plays Danny Rojas in Ted Lasso.
Football is life.
Yes. He's been talking to him the whole time, trying to get the current timeline straight of what this universe is like. He's never left the bar. It's funny, but it also sucks that they, like, teased you.
Yeah, because now you know that Tom Holland Spider-Man and Venom and Morbius are all from different universes.
Yeah, and so, you know, they keep trying to tease that. They're like, oh, what if they fight? They're not gonna. They're not gonna fight.
Well, what also doesn't make sense is Doctor Strange's spells brought Spider-Man villains from other universes to the Tom Holland universe, except for the Vulture.
Yeah, it sent him away.
And why would Morbius already be back, Venom already be back, and then him magically appear? And he didn't know why. Makes zero sense. Terrible ending. Terrible.
And then, after they let him out, he either made a new Vulture suit, which is insane because the Vulture suit he had in Spider-Man Homecoming, he made it out of old Chitauri parts from the Avengers movie. Did that happen in this universe? Did they also have a Chitauri invasion?
I don't know because his outfit looked different. I have no idea.
Well, that too. Then I'm like, did you kill this universe's Vulture and take his shit?
Yeah, makes no sense. What it was they took, sorry if I'm ruining Across the Spider-Verse, but at the beginning of Across the Spider-Verse, when the Vulture is there fighting Miles and he's from a different universe, they just pulled him from the animated to the live action and then he stole that outfit.
The thing is, if they hadn't shown that Doctor Strange streak in the sky and just showed him, I would have just assumed he was this universe's Vulture, and they could have done that. They could have just had him in
like, man, mysteriously appears. It makes no sense.
Well, I guess they had to let him out of prison, but
Sony just doesn't know what the hell is going on.
Well, I mean, I guess that brings
Morbius could have went and visited him in prison.
I just think, yes. I think the movie's a mess, and let me go through my trivia that kind of just shows some of the problems, I think, as well. Again, I apologize that now it's just me reading from a list of trivia. Normally I try and, like, put it in with parts of the movie that make sense, but a lot of this stuff didn't really mesh with anything. But, you know, that's normally how we do it. Anyway, J.K. Simmons originally filmed scenes as J. Jonah Jameson for this movie. And over time, apparently, it became evident to the filmmakers that Morbius did not actually exist in the same universe as Simmons' version of J. Jonah Jameson. As a result, the scenes were removed from the film. Like, even hearing that, I'm like, who the fuck hired him on and was like, we need you to do scenes as J. Jonah Jameson? What universe was this? Anyway, next thing. Jared Leto committed to the character's limping by using crutches even off camera. Reportedly, he took 45-minute treks to the bathroom. Pushing him in a wheelchair was a loophole solution around these delays.
I guarantee you, he is just hearing that. I guarantee he never allowed the wheelchair use, which is why he fought for the CGI, because he couldn't get to and from the bathroom and sit in the makeup chair. It would take 24 hours just to get him dressed.
My God.
Because he's already admitted in the past that he's a method actor, which is fine, but don't be an ass.
He actually said for this movie, he felt like he didn't have to do his traditional method acting because he said the character of Dr. Michael Morbius was much like his own personality, which...
First off, if you're walking on crutches 45 minutes to and from the bathroom, that's method acting, sir.
Exactly.
Get out of here.
So then, there's actually been this kind of... I saw a theory going around on TikTok, and I apologize. I don't know the guy who started it. I know one guy I saw who did it. I don't know if it was his idea. credit where credit's due, but I just don't know the names. I apologize. Where they're saying they think that actors are being tricked into Sony movies and being told it's a Marvel movie, which it is, but it isn't. So here's something that people have referenced for that. Matt Smith joined the film after previously turning down other superhero film roles. Smith joined the film after the director Daniel Espinosa gave him encouragement to join, and his co-star from Doctor Who, Karen Gillan, who plays Nebula in everything, encouraged him as well. She told him, I love doing this, but it's not quite the same. And I don't think that he knew that. And so he signed on, and now he's in this big pile of crap. And people think that that's what everyone is doing that's in Sony movies, that they're being tricked into being like, you're going to join the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And they're like,
but
yes.
They don't own rights to any of them.
They own rights to a million Spider-Man things. Almost every Spider-Man thing that was before fucking 1980, they own.
I was saying Marvel, though, doesn't own rights to any of these villains.
No,
so they can't do
They
anything.
have distribution rights for toys, I think, and comics, but the movie shit. Anyway, so if people are saying that they think people are being tricked into these, another thing I had is, I guess you don't know a whole bunch about this, but this movie did not do well. It did horrible.
I knew that.
And then everybody made memes about it forever. That's where Morb in time comes from. It was never in the movie. And
I'm glad it was never in the movie.
Sony was like, they love it. And they re-released it after it has already been out of theaters. They sent it back to theaters. And again, nobody went and saw it. And I just, how do you get fooled like that? You can physically see the numbers. Who cares if people online are talking about it? Jared
Leto is taking 45-minute treks to the theater every day to go see his own movie.
Well, during the 2023 writer's strike, a screenwriter, he does a lot of stuff, but Joshua Conkle, he had a sign that said, if you can re-release Morbius, you can pay us.
That's so true, though.
Yeah.
That's so true.
I thought that was hilarious. All right, last bit of trivia I have here. According to Jared Leto, this first movie is a first date, and he envisions many more Morbius movies to come. We're just getting to know each other, Leto said. This is kind of us at the first step forward. And I just think if you look at Wolverine, you look at Batman, you look at a lot of these films, and they evolve over time. There's a relationship that develops there, and who knows? But the Sinister Six, head-to-head with Spider-Man, we'll see what the future holds. Shut up. No. This is none of this.
You know why he had to be Morbius? It's because he already got fired for being a terrible Joker.
My thing about his Joker is I don't even, the tattoos don't bother me. The grill, I think, is ugly.
Yeah.
But what I didn't like about him is he didn't seem like I'm crazy and I just want to do whatever. He seemed like I want to be a mafia boss.
Yeah, I was like
he was very he just talks slow and low. It was just stop, what are you doing? Plus, it was weird to have him in these movies that he was in, but just as a side character. He didn't have
yeah.
He just showed up.
And let's start talking about Spider-Man against the Sinister Six. I guarantee you it's not going to be a Tom Holland Spider-Man. If anything, it'd have to be Miles Morales.
I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of their contracts and shit, but I just feel they've been trying to do a Sinister Six movie forever. And honestly, I don't know why. I feel like if you want to do a Sinister Six movie, then you build that up through Spider-Man movies. But I don't want to get too far into that soapbox. Let me just give my rating of this movie. It took me a while, but I decided to give it a 1.5 out of 5.
After talking about it, I'm like, I should just give it a 0. But I gave it a 2 initially because I was like, there were certain things about it that were good that I liked. Some of the story was good. I just feel like they tried to tell the Morbius story way too fast. Mm-hmm. And so we have no background, so we're just like, oh, he's a murderous vampire who's quote unquote trying to be good, but we don't know if he went to eating human blood. We don't know anything, so not a good movie. I wouldn't waste my hour and 45 minutes. Somebody should just stick to animation because those movies are great.
That's the strangest thing is you see those and you're like, you guys know what you're doing, and then you look over and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And just hide that behind the curtain and keep this coming.
Well, in case anybody didn't know, we're doing Morbius today because Madam Web is coming out in theaters this next week, so.
I'm going to go see it.
Oh. What do you think it's going to be? Good? Bad?
I think it's going to be real bad.
Yeah.
I think also, everybody's been fucking saying, they're going to have such a dumb scene about Uncle Ben.
Oh.
Where he's got a fortune cookie that tells him with great power comes great responsibility. What would be great is if that fortune cookie didn't say that, if instead it said what the Uncle Ben from the Amazing Spider-Man movie said, which was something like, "You have a responsibility to do good, and it's a choice," and
Oh
just
my
right on.
god. That's so bad.
So, I mean, Martin Sheen did great. Nothing against him. I just think they wanted to do a different line from "With great power comes great responsibility," and I just don't do a
Then
different
when
line.
they did No Way Home, they all just said, "With great power comes great
I know they had
responsibility."
Andrew Garfield. Like, yeah, I've heard that too. No, you haven't.
It was
You
Uncle
you
Ben
haven't
for
heard
me.
that.
Yeah, you haven't there.
Okay, so what is your sequel idea?
Morbius 2, Electric Boogaloo.
No.
I'm just kidding. It's called Morbius 2, There Will Be Blood.
Hell yeah.
It's a direct sequel from this one. Although, I personally think this movie needs a remake. Or reboot, I guess would be the correct term. But I'm not smart enough with the Marvel Universe to do all that. I looked in your encyclopedia a little bit, and then I just went with my gut. So here it is. It's called Morbius 2, There Will Be Blood. After killing Milo, Michael has been working on a cure for his condition that will allow him to live without needing blood all the time. Kind of like the artificial blood that would work, but it's not working. Over time, dead bodies start to pop up, and they are from vampire, killing innocent people. Morbius is like, well, it's not me. Who could it be? I've just been having artificial blood. Turns out it's Martine, because she was a vampire from that other movie. So after he realizes it's Martine, the love of his life that made zero sense because she was in like 3 scenes in that movie, he becomes more determined than ever to find a cure for them both because he wants them to be good. Although she eventually seduces and convinces him to murder people and for his bloodlust whilst he's still searching for a cure. Enter Blade.
Oh, shit.
Blade and him will be fighting over his bloodlust because Blade doesn't like when people kill people. And he's like part vampire himself.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes him a while, but Morbius does realize that Blade is a vampire and is telling him that he wants there to be a cure. Blade and him don't, they're different kinds of vampires, so Blade's cure doesn't work for Morbius, and Blade is like, stop.
Stop. It's
Anyways,
just nice. Will it be the same?
It could be the new Blade guy.
He needs a movie because
Yeah.
they've just been holding him off.
But the thing is, if you put the new Blade guy in Morbius 2, it's never gonna be that good. Like, he needs to stay in the Marvel universe. Yeah. Anyway, so because Morbius doesn't have the cure and all of that, it leads to Blade still trying to take Morbius down because he's like, well, I have to have human blood. I don't have a cure yet. They have a big old fight, and Morbius escapes because of his subway flying power, I guess. And Blade doesn't have that. And so, cue Dracula appearing.
Oh, shit.
And Dracula convinces Morbius to start working for him because Dracula and Blade are super familiar with each other. And Dracula's like a mob boss or whatever. So Morbius and Martine start to work with him while Morbius is like working on a cure in secret and in private because he ultimately wants that. But Dracula's protecting him. Blade comes in with a whole team of people to fight, and while they lose and the whole team dies except for Blade, Morbius realizes that his humanity and Blade's willing to risk it for him just to allow him to live, and helps Blade escape. So Morbius and Blade escape, except Morbius is working on a cure and ending the movie, but the after credit scene is going to show Martine with Dracula, and they're still killing people, and it'll be a Morbius Blade Dracula showdown in Morbius 3.
Okay. Well, I tried to do, I wrote a reboot. I wrote a way to fold him directly into the normal Marvel universe.
What'd you think of mine? You just said okay.
That's not for me to determine.
He hated it, everyone.
I didn't hate it. I hate Martine. I think she's a bad character.
I know, but I just went direct from this Morbius. I hated this movie, and I feel like maybe I should have done a reboot. However, I will say, I felt as if he's like super into comics and all of that, so I felt as if you were going to do a reboot.
I thought about it, but
I didn't want the same thing that happened with a previous episode we recorded. Hasn't been released, everyone. Hasn't been released. And we actually came up with the same sequel. Different plots, but we used the same villains.
Yeah.
And it was not a Marvel movie. It was a DC movie. Hint, hint. If that ever drops. But I didn't want that to happen. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's yours? Sorry.
You're all right. So, yeah, I wrote all those different kinds. I wrote one that was just like, open title Morbius, Blade is stabbing him, and then that's the movie. And he's dead. That was my movie. But I went ahead and wrote Morbius 2. I didn't give a subtitle.
Oh.
Hell, I didn't even type the 2. I just wrote Morbius.
I can see that, actually.
As Michael Morbius can feel control of his hunger slipping more each day, his new goal in life is to find a way to turn his curse into a gift for the world. Meanwhile, Martine has been missing since his face-off with Milo, and Morbius has also been unable to find her. At his wits' end, Morbius takes an interest in Adrian Toomes, who seemingly appeared in the world. After learning about another universe, Morbius is led to believe that this universe could contain a cure to his affliction, as well as a way to find Martine. Morbius begins searching for a way to traverse universes. When he believes he is getting close, he is apprehended by an elderly woman, Cassandra Webb, who demands he stops his search as his meddling will destabilize the universe during a time when the multiverse is in flux. After Morbius ignores her warnings, she uses her psychic abilities to battle Morbius, having him fight a Spider-Man-like character. Because we just can't just have a Spider-Man, because it's all fucked up. Anyway, this is also tying in with Madam Web. So, you're welcome, Sony. I'm helping you out here. Ultimately, Morbius escapes and is now hunted by the mysterious Madam Web. In the final act of the film, Morbius and Adrian Toomes build a machine meant to help them travel the multiverse, leading to the destabilization that Madam Web warned them about. They are unable to travel willingly, but the world around them begins to crumble and transform as if several universes are now colliding with one another. In a post-credit scene, Spider-Man is swinging through the city when he starts picking up frequencies from the police radio, reporting several different strange characters causing chaos around the city, seemingly coming from nowhere.
It's like Into the Spider-Verse with what Fisk was trying to do.
Yeah.
Meets live action, like Spider-Man villain.
Honestly, it was just about bringing Morbius and all them just to the normal universe and stopping all this bullshit.
That's true. That's true. It's just because, Sony and Marvel just are fighting about money.
They could make so much money if they just worked together.
They could.
All right. Well, thank you for making it this far. If you would like to vote on whose sequel idea was the best, come by our YouTube channel for the polls, or let us know your idea with a comment, tweet, or you can reach us at needlesssequel@gmail.com. Links, as always, will be wherever you are listening. If you had a good time, share our show with someone, leave us a review, and come back for more. We would love to have you.
We'll be back every Tuesday from now on.
Every Tuesday. All right, be easy, everyone. We will see you next week.